this class is a place for people to tell stories that often aren't heard, that I think are actually more common than we imagine that they are. Because I've worked with a lot of police, and that's just not what you're saying right now. A lot of people would say, like, oh, but that's not the police I know. And I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of police you know. You just don't know it. And like, what's the sadness?
Like I said, I don't think people get in this job to hurt people. We get in the job to protect people.
Some people.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe,
like I said, I think it's a very minute amount of number. And
look, wait, hang on. I want to say something here. You would know better than me, okay? I've met a lot of police in my life, and I've known police personally, but I don't work with them every single day. Yeah. And so you would know better than me the answer to that question. And you would know better than a lot of people who have this idea that police are these robots who are really, they get into police because they were failed athletes in high school or whatever, and they take steroids and they just want to go beat the shit out of people, like with the military, right? But you would know better than me. So,
I mean, like I said, even those people, I think they think they're protecting the guy who doesn't have a voice. So I think they think they're doing it with a reason.
They're also afraid.
People are afraid. And I was telling him earlier, I used to watch this video called Raising Cain. It's about raising boys and raising mainly boys, and they'll say, like, when young men feel fear, feel sadness, feel any sort of way, they do this thing called with the face of a man, and they puff up, they put their chest out because, society tells us we can't be vulnerable. I never subscribe to that. I think tears are powerful. I think tears, they make your skin look good. I take pride in crying. I cry a lot more now. I have a weird sense of empathy. I cry all the time now. This thing impacted my life greatly. Not only my life, my wife's, people I knew. It impacted a lot of people's life. And I was blessed. There's this person I got to see speak. Her name's Ann Corzales. 2 days before this incident happened. And she talked about the impact her incident happened on her family. And she talked about how it just doesn't happen to you, it happens to a lot of people. I mean, it just happened to all of you. When you saw London get hit by the car, it just happened to everybody in this room.
And the people who knew her name, Keisha, right?
Yeah.
And the people who knew her, all of her family and all of her people.
So it happened to everybody on the radio that day. So, and so I was able to see her, and she explained this. So, funny enough, that morning in our roll call, I was talking to the officers. I was a sergeant at the time. And I said, hey guys and ladies, today we're going to practice. When we get into incidents, we're not just going to talk about our tactics and stuff. We're going to talk about how we are feeling, because it's important to break that down too and talk about it. So you're okay with that. When a real incident happens, you're okay about talking about your feelings. And 4 hours later, I had to put my money where my mouth was.
And it changed your life in a way that you never could have anticipated.
So we were talking about earlier, like my brain, I was in pain all the time. And I had a lot of urges to kill myself. I would drive down the street on 2-lane roads, and there'd be a truck on the other side, and I had to fight every ounce of my body not to turn in front of those trucks. I remember one time I was on a trip, and my wife was in the car, and we're driving, she's sleeping in the car, and I'm just like, I want to, and it's like an urge that comes over you. And I'm like, I can't kill her. I can't do that to my mom. And then she wakes up and she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm just trying not to kill us. And she's like, what? So she's like, I guess I should stay awake and talk to you. I was so open with it. I think people are like, is he really trying to, he's not going to do it. But there were days, like I was going through so much anxiety. I always felt like I was having like a heart attack, and like my arm would hurt. And I would take my car and park it into the deep sections of our parking garage and just lean my seat back and say, I don't want anybody to save me. If I'm going to have a heart attack, it's going to happen. And I'm done. I can't live like this anymore. I'm in pain. My brain's not working. I'm not the person I was. And I struggled for years. I don't struggle as much. I mean, there's probably still days.
No, but then here you are, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly it's a service to, first off, the purpose of this class more than anything else is to see the world through the eyes of somebody else. Sometimes another group, but really just another person. And so to imagine that here's this cop who would go through this and would respond the way you're responding, it's like it's a service to people.
And I think that's why I connected with your class so much, because you get people to open their eyes. Because one of the things that, actually, nobody knows what triggers them till what triggers them.
Yeah.
I would watch other incidents of police shootings and stuff, and people jump let's jump to conclusion of what we think happened. And I'm like, you don't know what happened. I mean, you can watch the news stories and people talk about what happened with me, and the stories are wrong. Like, they interviewed a guy, he said, yeah, when she got on the ground, he shot her 4 more times. I mean, like, nobody knows what happened. So, I'm just like, take a breath. Let's give people a chance to figure out what goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really
I know a lot about policing. It's like, can't really talk about your emotions. It's more like a macho man, like they have around there. Like, you don't go to therapists, you don't talk about what happened. And like, how did your other officers feel about like you talking about your feelings and everything?
well, he is retired.
Yeah, well, even then, because I did it then. I did it after the incident. I went and talked about it. For me, I lived a lot of life of, oh, that's Joe. I think I was sort of always outside the box. So for me, it was like, it was sort of natural. I was also fortunate because I was at the end of my career when this happened. I was getting ready. Retirement was in the distance. I was able to be more truthful about it because when things like, okay, so there's laws and stuff that allow people to carry guns anywhere across the state, federal laws and stuff. And because part of my retirement package had PTSD, I can't carry a gun. Cops are weirdly attached to their guns. Me, I don't like guns. The only gun I've ever had was the one they issued to me at work. And when I retired, I said, here you go. I don't own any guns. I don't like guns. It was an equipment I used at work. So I'm sort of an outlier on that in police world anyway. Like, people talking to me about guns, I'm like...
Although there are other people like you.
Yeah, there are, but...
And so it's outliers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So...
And so, that's what keeps police from doing the work that they need to do, the psychological work, the therapy work. So you're not... And that's why suicide rates are so high.
And people don't know how to react to it. It's an injury you can't see.
Yeah.
People don't know what to do with it. So trauma hits people like down the road. Like, you could be fine. You're like, hey, I'm cool. And then like a year later, bam. So basically what happens is you get in a traumatic incident. They always say your glass is full. But then life happens. So now you're filling into something that's not full. I mean, you're spilling over. So about a year later, I was in an indoor position, basically because, like I said, everything became different for me. Things that I responded to easily for 25 years, I had to be like, oh wait, I got to go do that. Like, I had to think things through. Once again, sports analogy, the difference between, being on your toes and ready or being flat-footed and having taken 2 moves to go. I had to make 2 moves to do everything. So and nobody noticed it. I did, but people didn't notice it. So I was in a place, and I noticed conflict was really really built up anxiety for me. So I was in a spot, and there was just issues with different things, and it was just building up. And I had a project I needed to get done, so I was at home trying to finish it, and my whole body just shut down. I couldn't think. I couldn't comprehend everything I read. I was just had a computer on my lap and just stared at a screen all night. I couldn't sleep. I was just like, so the next morning I had to go to work. So I got up and I went to go take a shower. And my wife came in. She was, "What are you doing? You didn't sleep. You don't go to work." And I'm like, "I got to go to work. There's nobody else there. I got to do the job." And she's like, "Don't go to work." And I remember just yelling at her saying like, "I don't need you to be part of this problem today. I need you just to back off. I got enough going on." And I got dressed and I got in the car and I started driving to work. And I just broke down because, that's my number one. She's the one who notices everything before I do. She's my ride or die. She's there no matter what. And I thought, what am I doing? So I get to work and I write this big old long letter. And funny enough, I had a conversation with one of my supervisors just 2 days before saying, "Hey, I'm overwhelmed. I'm having trouble." And there was an email thread going on. And this is what caused my response with the letter. Because he said, "Why don't you tell me how you really feel?" And I laid it out. Like this, that, people are overwhelmed. We had 2 officers that died by suicide earlier in the year. I go, we had these 2 guys. Nobody did anything then. People just aren't doing anything. And he read that and sent me home, and I never worked again.
Man, dude.
I mean, and that's the problem because I'm at the end of my career. I don't work again. I'm on the books for a little bit. I have illness. I retire. 10, 20 years left. You can't do that.
You would have been one of those guys who just sticks it out.
Yeah, you have to because one is an injury you can't see. People don't deal with it. People don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. There's so many. So it's a problem. It's a problem in law enforcement, which is why suicide rates are so high.
And why so often the way officers engage citizens is very troubling and very problematic. Yeah. Beck, when you listen to him talk and you think about you wanting to, be in law enforcement, like what comes to mind for you? Like what are you?
A lot of his story and like what he talks about reminds me of my family and what my dad's gone through with what he's seen, what he's done. But
And what do you wish people understood from the son of somebody and also someone who wants to get into law enforcement? What do you wish people understood about just that the law enforcement and the career?
it's a big job. You got a lot to do, and half the time you're a police officer, half the time you're a social worker, and then you got to go home and be a parent, a husband, a wife, do whatever. And they see a lot of stuff that a lot of people shouldn't see, and it's just a difficult job that a lot of people don't understand.
Did you talk to your dad a lot about stuff that he saw, or did he bottle it up, or just not share it with you? Let me say, maybe not bottle it up, or just not share it with you.
He answers questions that my brother and I would ask, but as we get older, he shares more and more.
Yeah. How about you? Did your dad talk?
My dad never really talked about it at all. He just kept it to himself. Even as he only told me one story about him getting a knife pointed at him, and that's he never told me the end of that story. He also has not gonna say he has mental problems, but being a police officer really wears you down and hardens you. And once you reach that point, it's you feel like you're just alone and no one else is on your side, and it just gets really hard.
So when you hear Joe talking and you think about that, what are you most concerned about for your own future?
just like being able to talk about like my feelings. I feel like it's a real big problem in the police culture right now, is not being able to talk to your brothers and like your people who you work with about like what's going on inside your head, because no one can see it, only you can like think about it. And I don't know, it's just scary, the amount of like suicides you see among police. That's just it's a big statistic out there.
Hey, and by the way, I want to just re-emphasize here. We do a lot of classes. We do 60 different classes every year. And over the course of 5 years, let's say, that's 300 classes, and they're all different. And we've had a lot of classes where we talk about, many classes where we talk about the violence that police have done to people, and people tell their stories. This just isn't that class. So if you're sitting here thinking, oh, you should talk about all the things that, things that police do, that's another class, y'all. Like you don't do it all here. This is one single class. This is the story of one police officer. So I just want to really reemphasize that, especially anybody watching the video, that's really important.
After all of the stuff you've struggled with after that date, is there anything you could say to anybody that was put in your position of how you can possibly deal with something like that?
You know, you got to be comfortable talking about it. You got to recognize, I'm probably overly self-reflective. And like when I feel something or I'm triggered, I try to work my way backwards to figure out what's actually triggering me. And one, breathe through everything. Breathing saved me. And really try to retrain your mind. So like when I still see Chevy Avalanches, my heart races. And for the last 6 months or so, I was really trying to every time I see a Chevy Avalanche, I just try to retrain my brain like I saved lives that day. I try to make it more positive instead of that's ran me over. So I just try to change my thought process about everything. And you really got to work. You got to do the work.
Yeah, I think that's I think when I stand here with you, right, you two guys, we look out over this classroom, and I think about all the different traumas that people just in here have experienced, and they're not talking about it. They're not engaging. You know, just like Irvin could tell you stories about how the police treated him when he was young. Police were different. But in Philadelphia back then, man, this guy has stories about racist police.
Yeah, and like I said, it goes back. There was a book, like I said, the book I read, The Body Keeps the Score.
The Body Keeps the Score about trauma.
Yeah, people don't even realize they have trauma. So they're reacting to things and triggered by things they don't even know.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. Everybody needs some grace.
Yeah. Thanks, man. That's actually that's a beautiful final word. Everybody needs some grace. Yeah. Dude, thanks, man. Yeah.